About me, and I am so glad it's not. And good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. I don't have any time for a joke because I have a lot to tell you about our speaker today. Get it all out now because you have to be good to Michael. Okay. Anyway, our speaker today is fellow Rotarian Michael Hady, who came to town about 34 years ago to join the executive team at Memorial Hospital. While there, he helped to establish the wonderful reputation of Memorial Hospital as a significant community partner. And at the same time, the York community benefited as we gained one more really good guy and friend to many. Michael moved on to WellSpan in 1994 to help establish the Healthy York County Coalition, where he would be instrumental in making this innovative community initiative a reality. Then Sally Dixon called Michael back to Memorial in 1999 as VP of Business Development during a time of tremendous change and challenge in the topsy-turvy healthcare industry. In 2013, after more than 25 years in healthcare, Michael took the step into the financial services industry and joined a strong York Traditions team. But opportunity knocked once again when the Powder Mill Foundation determined it was time to identify a leader to be a community face for this strong community partner in philanthropy. Michael was selected in May of 2018 as the first president and CEO of the Powder Mill Foundation and was named as a trustee this past spring. Michael's leadership and contributions to the betterment of our community doesn't stop with his professional endeavors, however. He's really a very humble man, so the long list of his community activities may come as a surprise. Over the years, he served as board chair for the Strand Capital, United Way, Leadership York, the Hahn Home Foundation, York County Honors Choir, and Access York. He served on boards including Dallastown Area School District, the Burns Health Ed Center, American Red Cross, Cultural Alliance, York County Community Foundation, and Shippensburg University Alumni Association. He's also a founder and past board member of Pappas House, Pennsylvania's first of its kind end-of-life home. As you can tell, Michael has been a very busy fellow, and his community service has not been overlooked, having received a number of awards. But his most important honor and achievement is his marriage to Melanie, his wife and partner in life's adventures for 39 years. They share two lovely and accomplished daughters, Jillian and Meredith, and they have the cutest, little, most adorable grandson, Theodore Michael, or Teddy, as he prefers to be called. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to introduce my dear friend, Michael Hady, as our speaker this afternoon.
Jody does it every time. So anyway, wow, what a crowd. Good afternoon. Thanks, Jody, for that incredible introduction. It's certainly a pleasure and an honor for me to be here today to tell you a little more about the Powder Mill Foundation. As you know, Louis was very humble, didn't want his name splashed everywhere, and we try to maintain that, but we want to share the wonderful things that we're doing. As most of you know, Louis Appell was one of York's most successful business leaders. He was committed to improving this community and the nonprofits who serve those in need every day. As you'll hear throughout this presentation, he loved York, and particularly York City, and all of you who know him know that. I've tried very hard over my 34 years in York to make a difference as well, and I am truly humbled and honored to be given this opportunity to lead this amazing organization. And I want to just do a shout out to Dave Kennedy and Polly Steller, two of my trustees who are here today, and thank them for giving me this incredible opportunity. Okay, so I'd like to start with a little audience participation, so work with me here. I have a few questions to ask, and as I ask these questions, I ask you to stand and remain standing until we get through all of them. All right, we'll start here. First, for all the nonprofit leaders in town, or in the room, Please stand if you've ever asked or received money from Louis Appell or the Powder Mill Foundation. Okay, stay standing. Next, is there anyone else in the room that's not in this group of leaders that has asked Louis Appell or Powder Mill for money? Who works for who is involved in a board or a committee of a nonprofit that has received money from Powder Mill or Louis Appell? Who has attended an event at the Strand Capitol? How about the York Revolution? I think we were all there earlier this year, so I think everybody can stand. I could go on and on with Central Market and Market View Arts and York College, and I think everybody in the room would be standing. Go ahead and have a seat. I think you get the picture. Louis Appell has touched the lives of nearly every citizen in York County in some way or another through his leadership and his generosity. I'd like to share a video that we had created earlier this year as we developed the Powder Mill Foundation website. I think it describes perfectly the man Louis Appell was and how Powder Mill Foundation is committed to continuing his good works. Sorry.
I don't think there's anybody I've ever met who loved York more than Louis Appell. He was interested in anything that would make York better. And that meant anything that would make York better, fair, more equitable, more prosperous, a better place to live. He was interested in all those things, and I applauded him, and I continue to applaud him for all those things. He had the right priorities. He cared deeply about the community. I don't think there's anybody who loved York more than he did.
It was the board meeting that followed Mr. Appell's passing in June of 2016. And we had I just put an item on our agenda recognizing Mr. Appell, just to have an open conversation. And a concept quickly came out of that conversation to rename our facility in honor of not only Mr. Appell, but his father and grandfather before him, who built our theaters, who made these spaces possible. Then when the theaters were closed, Mr. Appell coming in and leading the way to revitalize these theaters. I mean, our renaming didn't have anything directly to do with a gift or a donation or a bequest or anything like that. I mean, this was truly to recognize 3 generations of leadership and involvement with the Appell family.
The first time I really got to know Mr. Appell was when I served on the board of Central Market. He was a major shareholder of Market and a long-time passionate supporter of the Market and very involved as we were working through the revitalization plan. And all the while, Mr. Appell was really supportive of all of those changes and really a cheerleader of our efforts. While he really treasured these really important, long-standing institutions in the community, he understood that those institutions needed to evolve to some degree and was very welcoming of fresh perspectives. He showed up for everything. He was, as I said, he was there every single Saturday morning with his wife shopping, but he was that way with everything that he supported. He always came, so it wasn't just about supporting projects financially or behind the scenes. He was the biggest cheerleader for all of us who were working so hard to make York the really vibrant place that it is today and is going to continue to evolve to be.
York is clearly going through some significant revitalization, some changes, some transformation. I think some of those investments that were made a long time ago are starting to bear fruit now. We had purchased a property over on 250 West King Street and had the opportunity to actually now build a facility. And it was an $8 million facility that needed to be built. And so this was a massive, massive undertaking. we did that capital campaign after the significant economic downturn of 2008. It was 2009 that we did it. It's phenomenal that we raised, I think it was almost $7 million in that campaign. And Mr. Appel obviously made a very substantial gift to that and helped us mobilize other donors toward that. I can't imagine an organization like a Logos Academy in other communities that I've worked with other nonprofits. I can't imagine those organizations being able to pull a campaign of that size off. But I'm pretty certain that God used Mr. Appel in significant ways for Logos Academy's good and for the good of this community.
Mr. Appel's vision, I think, for the role of your college in the city from the start, from when I first met him, was the idea that there would be great mutual benefit if the college and the community worked together on a project, that it could allow our students to gain a lot of experience, to find an affection for New York City, and also to provide them with a reason to stay here in New York. He also, I think, believed that the college would succeed itself more fully if they were really engaged in the community. Mr. Appel and I spoke years ago about that property after the Lafayette Club closed, and we discussed how it might become a piece of what your college is trying to do in the downtown. And Mr. Appel in that conversation said, yes, I will donate this building to you on two conditions. One was that it is renovated quickly and doesn't sit vacant. And secondly, that you use it for some purpose that will serve the good of New York City. The Powder Mill Foundation was able to support the transformation financially, but also in terms of vision, which is in many ways just as important. The idea that somehow a space like that and a location like that really needed to be a convening spot for the community. It needed to be a place where important and positive activities were taking place.
His legacy lives on because part of that legacy is his generosity, and that generosity lives on through the contributions that the foundation will continue to make.
I get the wonderful opportunity to sit with people every day and hear what they want for their organizations or for this community. And it's an honor for me to have the opportunity to help them fulfill those dreams through the Powder Mill Foundation.
The Powder Mill Foundation has not only established itself as an organization that many people will come to with good ideas and vision, like Mr. Appel would approve of, but actually one that makes really judicious and careful decisions about how it's going to spend its money. Especially important in the Powder Mill's vision, I think, is that they do in fact have a mission to support this community that is steadfast. They are absolutely living out the dream Mr. Appel had for New York City, and so Powder Mill is, and will continue to be, I think, a real driver for the progress of the city.
The example that Louis left us was engagement. That each of us has a career, each of us has a job, each of us has a family, but we're all part of this broader, bigger community, and we owe something to that community. He was so generous because he believed that was an extension of his life, every bit as much as his business, his family was. And I think that's important for all of us. A democracy doesn't work as spectators. We're communities. Don't work if everybody sees themselves as passive spectators. We need to get engaged. And we need to follow his example and say we're going to be engaged and make my community, our community, everything it should be.
Closely with us to create that, and I think she did a magnificent job. Really terrific. And I also want to thank Aaron and Todd and Jessica and Dominic for their kind words and memories of what Mr. Appel and the Powder Mill have done to help achieve their dreams and missions. And of course, to the governor, it's always great to have Tom in the video. So let's take a minute to understand the history of the Appel family and where his wealth was created to allow us, the Powder Mill Foundation, to continue his good work. Many in the community associate Louis with the Falstaff Company, so assume that it was the Appell's company. As you heard from Todd in the video, the Appell side of the family built and ran the Strand Capitol. It was Louis's mother who was a Falstaff, and that is the link to the pottery business. I would bet that many of you in this room who were married and began married life like Melanie and I did back in 1981 with Falstaff dishes on our wedding registry and on our first dining room table. We all did. While the Falstaff name may be best known in the York area, the media company was much larger and profitable. Susquehanna Communications encompassed radio, TV stations across the country, cable companies, and billboards. It was really quite a company. So what about Louis? Louis was born in 1924 here in New York. He was educated at his beloved Harvard, who he supported all his life. He married Helen in 1948, and they had 3 children, Lou III, Barbara, and Helen. Barbara passed away sadly a few years before Louis. It was very devastating to him. Louis III lives in California. Helen lives in Oregon. Both are very active trustees in the foundation and have really stepped up to take on a lot of the community economic development initiatives that Louis had been doing during his life. And we're so grateful for their commitment to York and right now and into the future. And then Louis married Jody in 1978. We all know Jody and love her. You know his business affiliations, and sadly he died in 2016. He was involved not only locally, we know him for all the things he did locally, but certainly at the state level, and was involved in a lot of organizations, as you see on this list, was oftentimes one of the founding members for these organizations and certainly supported them financially. Locally, there's probably not an organization in New York over the past 50 years that Louis wasn't involved in, either personally, financially, or as a leader. That list could be about 10 slides long. And he was certainly given awards for all the things that he did. Honorary degree from York College, Distinguished Service Medal from Harvard, certainly Chamber Awards, Boy Scouts Awards, and he was also recognized by the Pennsylvania Society at the Waldorf Astoria as a distinguished citizen of the Commonwealth. And what I loved about that event was that he insisted that the York County Honors Choir join him at that event and sing for that group at the Waldorf Astoria. Just an incredible honor for those kids, and what a great experience. Powder Mill Foundation was created in 1993 as Louis looked towards the future and assuring that nonprofits in the community would be supported once he was gone. Prior to that, he was making gifts either personally or through the Susquehanna Falstaff Foundation. Once the company was sold, he merged that foundation into Powder Mill. The original trustees were Louis, Jody, Bill Simpson, and John Finlayson, names that I'm sure you all remember. He later invited Dave Kennedy, Sally Dixon, George Hodges, Polly Stetler, and his children, Lou III and Helen, to join the group. And I was humbled this year to be asked to join that esteemed group as well. So what is our focus? As you can see from this slide, there are 3 main categories for our distributions each year: local charities, Harvard, and York College. Louis loved his alma mater. He was a major benefactor to the school for over 65 years. We continue to work with them with contributions to many areas of the school, including the athletic program, the libraries, the houses that they're renovating. We support them, as well as the Arnold Arboretum. You'll hear later about Louis' love of gardening, and the Arnold Arboretum was one that was very special to him in Boston, that's affiliated with Harvard. York College was another important institution about which Louis cared greatly. You've heard about his support and that of the Powder Mill to the 2 deteriorating buildings downtown and turn them into Marketview Arts and the Center for Community Engagement. We'll talk about his wish to create a horticulture major at the college a little later in my presentation. The majority of our gifting is for capital campaigns, capital improvements, and other capital needs for nonprofits. Louis also wanted us to support agencies in feasibility studies, strategic planning, organizational improvement, particularly encouraging collaborative efforts. He also wanted us to focus efforts on new, innovative, and transformative initiatives. He was clear that our role was not necessarily to provide annual giving, sponsorships, special event funding. However, the board does have discretion with regard to that. When in doubt, we always defer to WWJD. What would Louis do? There are some legacy events that we feel are so important to continue to help the city thrive and bring people downtown that we fund. He also was clear that the Cultural Alliance and the United Way campaign should continue to be supported. Our assets are currently stand at between $150 and $160 million. In the video, you heard from the Appell Center, Logos, York College, Keystone Kids Space. We have also made significant pledges to many other local organizations over the past year or two. The Curtin Martin Library Campaign, the Cador's Creek Project, UPMC, Memorial's New Hospital, Wellspan's Cancer Center, the Upper School at York Academy, STEAM into History, the new museum for York County History Center, the renovation of the YMCA, the Parliament, and the Graham Center at Penn State York. And of course, the Yorktown Hotel. We must assure that the hotel project is completed as soon as possible. I think you'd all agree. So far this year, we've distributed $3.7 million to almost 100 nonprofits. What's next? Millbourne. Millbourne is the Appell's estate on Powder Mill Road, most visibly recognized by the thousands of daffodils that bloom along Powder Mill Road near Tyler Run each spring. Most people don't realize what's back there. The property is 50 acres on which Louis spent his last 30 years creating stunning gardens. Here is a diagram of the existing gardens. Jody still resides in the house at Millbourne. She turned 96 last week. And while she has many challenges physically, her mind is sharp as a tack. It's such a joy to spend time with her. She participates in board meetings each quarter, enjoys visitors, and regular rides through the garden in her golf cart. She also loves her Revs, and you'll see her in her box at the Rev Stadium all summer cheering them on with her family, and often with John Zimmerman by her side, a childhood friend. Upon her death, Millbourne will become part of the Powder Mill Foundation. Louis' desire was for it to become public gardens that the community could enjoy for years to come. There's a common misperception that the property would be going to York College upon Jody's death. It might be the #1 question I get asked. This is not the case. However, as we discussed earlier, Louis included York College in his will to create a horticulture major, and the students of that school will have access to Millbourne for learning, hands-on education, and perhaps jobs upon graduation. We're working with the college now to develop that program. It's something we're very excited about. I want to thank Dr. Gunther Smith and her team at the college for working with us to develop this wonderful new opportunity for the students at York College. We have hired a nationally recognized garden design firm of Robinson Anderson Summers from Wilmington, Delaware, to assist us with creating a master plan for gardens in anticipation of opening them to the public. As you can imagine, turning a private residence into a facility for the public entails parking lots, accessible trails, restrooms, all those things to come. RAS has done work at Longwood Gardens, Ladue Gardens, Chanticleer, Morris Arboretum, Winterthur, and the United States Botanical Gardens, to name a few. It is truly going to be an amazing gift to the York community to have access to, and to be an amazing gift to the, amazing gift to the York community to have access to world-class gardens. I'm hopeful that one day, in the next few years, when we are open to the public, that this Rotary Club will be able to enjoy an off-site meeting and lunch there. And maybe I'll speak again. It's been, we laughed. I joined Rotary like 34 years ago. I spoke 9 years after that about the Healthy York County Coalition, and now it's been 24 years and I'm back. So maybe maybe it won't be 24 years. As you can see from the following slide, this is the mission statement for the gardens. Gardens is to cultivate and preserve the peace and beauty of its gardens, house, and structures in keeping with the aesthetic sensibilities and charitable wishes of Jody and Louis Appell Jr., and to provide inspiration and education to all who visit. Education will be very important, and we are excited to work with the local school districts to have their kids visit the gardens in the future. So as you've heard, Louis did incredible things for our community while he was alive. Powder Mill will continue that work into the future to make York even better. I thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I'm happy to take a few questions.
We're going to try something different today. We're going to have a mic come around the room, so if you have questions, please raise your hand, and I'll do my best to get the mic over to you as quickly as I can. Who's first?
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Softball question, Michael. So as part of the gardens, there's a substantial, Louis and Jody have been such supporters of the arts community, and there's substantial works, both three-dimensional in the gardens as well as in the estate. Is that going to be enrolled at all in that public display? Will any of those works, of course the sculptural works, but will there be any public display of the other works in the collection?
That is yet to be determined as part of the master plan. There's still a question of what will we do with the home, with the car collection that's there. There's a lot of things there that don't normally fit into a garden, but there's some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things there that is yet to be determined how we'll be providing access.
You don't need a mic.
Thank you. So you mentioned Ladue Gardens and Winterthur, Longwood. There are wonderful performing arts events that take place in those venues. Might there be a performing arts component built into the plan for Milburn that would complement what happens at the Appell Center?
Again, yet to be determined. The question was, will there be a performance opportunity as there is at Ladue and Longwood and those kind of places for music and art? And again, as part of the strategic plan, we'll be determining that. Some of it will depend on how much parking we have and how much accessibility. We don't want to overrun the gardens with crowds. 50 acres is large, but certainly not as large as the Longwood. And so, controlling the traffic, both foot traffic and car traffic into the gardens will be something that we're certainly looking at right now. Jody?
Don't be worried, Michael. Who takes care of the gardens now?
So who takes care of the gardens is the question. Louis had a staff and Jody has a staff now of a number of horticulturists and gardeners that maintain the gardens year-round. And they're wonderful people. They do a fabulous job, and once you get to see it, you'll really appreciate it. For those of you that have been there, it's just stunning. And so someday, you'll realize what a great gift it is.
How many requests do you get a week or a month?
How many requests do I get for money every day? A lot. I would say we've given away about around 100 gifts this year, and I probably got 150 requests. So we fund most of the things that generally I meet with everyone prior, so we vet things a little bit and weed out a little bit of things that maybe, so I don't put them through the process of filling out an application if I feel like, they're not headed in the right direction.
Is using it as a venue for special events and occasions, is that something that's being considered?
Yes. Weddings, probably not. We obviously met with many of those other gardens that I mentioned, and weddings are really tough, and they really do a lot of damage to properties and gardens. And a lot of the other gardens that do that, they need a strong revenue stream, and they can make a lot of money on weddings. We may not be in that position, so yet to be determined. But other events for I think that we would like to use it for nonprofits to have events there, fundraisers and that kind of thing, but again, controlled.
Michael, this isn't actually a question, but I want to just thank you and certainly Louis and the Powder Mill Foundation. For our members who don't know, our club project at Trees for the Trail, we approached Michael and Powder Mill Foundation, and they were one of our first supporters that gave us not only the funds, but also some cachet with other funders that helped us raise money. So we thank you.
You're welcome. Great project.
Michael, one of the non-financial things that Louis Appell was famous for was providing advice and guidance to nonprofits and individuals and helping people further their visions and their dreams for York and York County. To what degree and how does Powder Mill go about providing technical expertise and guidance to burgeoning projects?
Well, as I said, I meet personally with pretty much everyone that calls that wants information or wants to apply for a grant. We have a lot of good partners too. I mean, Jane Cohen, who's here, the foundation does wonderful work with helping. She and Lisa do a lot of work with technical assistance for Kelly from Culture Alliance. So there's a lot of other resources in the community. We all kind of work with each other to help those organizations that are trying to find their way and trying to determine if they're on the right path.
This is not so much an eleemosynary question. I think I pronounced it. I didn't know Louis had a car collection. What's in it?
Yeah, it's an antique car collection. Not well known.
All right, we are out of time, unfortunately, but I'm sure Michael will stick around for some questions afterwards.